All right, it is 4:01, so we are going to get started. Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of Cup of Joe. My name is Kathy Barnard. I'm the Alumni Director and a proud 1981 alumna of the University of Idaho. And I'm just really glad that you could all join us today. I want to give just a few preliminary ground rules before we get started, and then we'll jump right in. So before we get started, before we do that, I want to thank our program sponsor. So Paine West Insurance. Paine West is the leading broker in the Pacific Northwest where Vandals can shop for home insurance, auto insurance, and more. And every new policy that's purchased actually helps the University of Idaho Alumni Association. So Paine West, remember those words. Before we get started, a couple of reminders. So remember to keep your mute button on. And as always, if you have questions today for Spencer, please direct them to my coworker, Christy Overfeld. Christy, raise your hand in the chat, and we'll try to field as many of those questions as we possibly can. We're going to squeeze the most out of every moment that we have together. It's now my pleasure and privilege to introduce my friend and colleague, Spencer Martin. He's the Associate Director of the Lionel Hampton School of Music and Director of Athletic Bands at Idaho, including the amazing Sound of Idaho Vandal Marching Band, which is what we all know the most about, probably. Spencer is a proud Vandal. He earned both his bachelor's and master's degree from U of I, and he has directed award-winning bands at the middle school, high school, and college level, as well as worked as a professional percussionist with jazz and other musicians all over the world. Of Basque descent, he's performed internationally as a founding member of the Basque American musical group Amuma Says No, and he's considered an authority. I learned this today, Spencer. I did not know.
I read that. Well, you say it, and then I'm going to jump in and tell the truth here. So
okay, I'm considered an authority on ancient Basque percussion instruments.
So, well, I know just enough to be dangerous, and here's how it works in the Boise band community. They go, "Oh, you're Basque and you're a drummer? Okay, 25 students are going to show up here, so figure out how to teach them how to beat on these trees. Go." So that's kind of I'm by no means an authority, but had a lot of fun learning a lot about those types of instruments. So.
Well, I would still contend in this group, you are the authority on
That's
that.
why you're my friend, so thank you.
He returned to U of I in 2012, and he's been working his magic with the marching band ever since. I don't know how many of you saw the all percussion version of the fight song or the all percussion holiday concert. If you did, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, just magic. Anyway, welcome, Spencer. I'm so glad you could be here.
Well, thank you. It's just an honor, and welcome to the new School of Music. Welcome to my office. This is not a backdrop. This is real. And you can see too, they're doing an awesome job of getting ready for commencement. There's 6 commencement ceremonies this weekend, 3 on Saturday and 3 on Sunday. And you know, when you work somewhere for 10 years and you have to do all this kind of Zoom stuff and the Ethernet in your office isn't working very well, after 10 years, you acquire friends and some keys and you go, you know, it seems that the Ethernet in the press box probably works pretty well. And so let's just say I've been hiding in the press box now for the past year. And when this is all over, I'm going to keep hiding. So don't tell anybody. Don't tell the provost, but I'm going to stay up here and hide. It's been really fun.
It will be our secret. Okay. So I can't think of a group on campus more impacted by the pandemic probably than musicians and singers. So I want to start by just having you tell us what the challenges were. So the pandemic hits, and then what?
Well, even like when we were talking with Camille before, and Camille would agree with this, we talked about this, is that you have 2 options that you can go just individually and as a teacher or whatever. Is if you just mourn what you can't do, you're shutting the door and you can't accomplish anything. And so with the marching band, but the School of Music too, we just went into it. Don't let what you can't do interfere with what you can do. And so we never talked about what we did in the past or what was going on. We said, we have a whole new opportunity to create something completely different and to do something totally different. And let's just lean into it and let's just do it. Let's just figure it out. And 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 during the summer, the university was great. The university goes, what PPE, what equipment do you need for the band and for the School of Music? We were kind of working in tandem because we had very similar challenges. What do you need? And so the other thing too is I have a sister-in-law and a brother-in-law that one is a doctor in Seattle and one is a dentist. So this, spring and summer, they're right in the thick of it. And so you ask them, what do you guys do? What do you do in the medical field to be safe? And they gave me some things, about shields and masks. And then there was a ton of research for musicians, and we got all this compiled and asked the university, this is what we need. And they gave it to us because music was too important for it for the pandemic to stop it. And the university's been awesome. And you think of facilities and you think of athletics. When I was joking, this is the new School of Music, not lying. They gave us the Kibbe Dome. We were here. If you look at the Lighthouse Center, that's where jazz bands were. If you look over here, that's where Buck Fitch taught oral skills and theory and did all that stuff. And the marching band, we were down here on this side, and we were spread out all over the dome. And it was amazing. What other university gives their School of Music the football stadium? None. And it was really incredible. And it was incredible for all of us to work together. And then especially in the spring, because then we started sharing it with them, because football and track and soccer, and it was really healthy for all of us. And so when football was postponed in August, we had the face shields, we had the masks, we were going to do some playing. But when it got postponed and we still didn't know really what was safe, we had guidelines, but we didn't know. We said, is it crazy to think that we just don't play our instruments? And, having hung out with Dan Buckfitch for 25 years, he's the reason I came here. Dancers, drummers, dreamers, with that kind of stomp and blue man influence. Let's just do this. Let's create a 150-piece percussion ensemble, right? And have a kind of a heavy metalish rock band to do the melody and do all this stuff. And so that we just decided about a week and a half before school started, this is what we're going to do. And have awesome assistant directors with Nikki Craythorne, who many of you know. She's an alumna of the school, and she was in the band in the School of Music. And Charisse Cameron, also an alumna of the school and the band, the university. These two ladies, we met all summer and put together a plan of how to do it. And they're awesome. They're angels. And they are as much the Vandal Marching Band as any of us that were ever directors. They're phenomenal. And so couldn't have done it without them. And so, but our biggest fear is when you tell a kid, hey, give us your trombone, here's a pair of drumsticks, here you go. And you're kind of worried that they're all going to quit.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And the fact that they had trust in us that we would create something that would be worth their time, that would be musically challenging, but it would be worth them to do it, was really a phenomenal feeling. And so we just went into it. And I got to put my Mr. Martin Middle School band director hat back on and teach non-percussionists how to play drums. And we're beating on bins, and we did this thing. And years ago, Buckfitch had written, he created this Dancers, Drummers, Dreamers piece called Seat Beat that was based on chairs. You'd play it on chairs. It's basically think of playing a drum set thing with a chair. It's classic Dan, and it's really a great piece. And we had done it some years with the marching band. He wrote a Go Vandals arrangement against it. And we did it at homecoming with the band, parts of the band playing it up front. We were playing on bins. We did it some years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So why don't we do that? We know it'll work. It's a home run. We'll have the heavy metal band play the tune and kind of rearrange it. Liam Marchant was part of that band, some other great young students there. Liam's our new Presser Scholar. If you're at the School of Music, you know what that is. So he's one of many of our young stars. And so we started doing it, and we didn't know if we could play live. We didn't know, but we're basically now this bin playing non-marching band that's sitting up here, and it started going, and it was good. Like you could just kind of tell this is good. And so our friends from Creative Services came over and marketing, and we said, maybe we could do something. They did a Stay at Homecoming, which was a great kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, and they said, well, why don't we do this for Stay at Homecoming? Perfect. So this is in September. we record this. And they bring in drones, and they bring in multicams and multi-mics, and that's when the band knew it was real. Like, they actually had this drone flies right in your face, right, as we were going. And so we recorded this Go Vandals, and it was finally like, it had the same feeling as playing at the football game. It had that same type of, like, you have to be good, you have to be ready, you have to be prepared, you have all this pressure, but it's new pressure. And so we had 45 minutes total. I think we did 8 different takes where they're like, okay, start at this part, and the drone's gonna fly out here, now the drone's coming here, now start over here, and we're gonna do individual shots. And so all the video you saw was 8 different takes. Will Necht and John Barnhart and those guys did a great job. John Melcher did the sound for us, so we put mics everywhere. And we did it, and it was so much fun. And we got done with that rehearsal, and the band was stoked. I mean, it felt like the Vandal Marching Band for the first time. It was like, they're like, oh, this is what it is. And so then this video, they release it, and it kind of goes viral, which was really exciting. And so all of a sudden, you know, I'm getting calls from multiple television stations in Boise and Spokane. So I'm, much like now, just spouting garbage to a computer screen, but they made it look good and put it on. So we were on the news. Then with these face shields that we used, we were featured on the Chicago Innovative Awards. They won this big award for what they did with face shields, and they featured us on that. And then ABC World News Tonight with David Muir comes calling. So now we're on ABC in New York, and all this stuff's going. And so now this is really fun. So now marketing and creative search, they go, can you do it again? I'm like, well, we don't know. But there was this piece that my good friend Jared Halleck kind of showed to us. It was this piece called Cups. It was based off of this game, this old kind of little game thing. And he had come up with some grooves, and then he showed it to Buck Fitch, and Buck Fitch pretty much kind of wrote and arranged it. This is back in the 90s, but he kind of made us feel like we did it too, even though it was his magic. But anyway, we put together this piece years ago called Cups. And if you did DDD, or if you're in the School of Music, Cups was magic, but it was beaten into the ground. Like, we played it for years because it was so good. It was like our in the mood thing, right? And that's the joke. What are you doing? Cups again, blah, blah, blah. So for those of you that are in the know, we had no plans to do Cups this summer. Zero. We were not going to do Cups. But Nikki and Sharice are getting our supplies for school, and they're at Walmart, and on the like, get rid of, sell, what would you call it, the clearance aisle, there were hundreds of plastic cups, and there were 4 of them for 25 cents. 4 for 25 cents. And so Nikki goes, maybe we need to buy these cups. I'm like, okay, buy all the cups. So we threw them in the bins. We weren't going to do Cups. I'm not lying to you. We weren't going to do Cups. But then these kids, they find Cups. And we had some written music that I had written out. It looked really dumb from years ago, but it kind of showed how to do it. And so you're hearing them do Cups. And I said, okay, how many of you have played this piece Cups? One kid raises his hand. I'm like, oh, we got to do it now. And so this was the basis we used for this next video that they wanted us to do. And so I wrote some drumline parts to it. The Caden and Cody and Liam and all those guys created a kind of a rock band music accompaniment to it. And so then we thought, well, what if we do a holiday theme? Because, you know, it's why not? And Nikki couldn't do, she's taught at St. Mary's for 30 years. There's no holiday concerts going on. So she's got an entire, if you look at that brand new gym they built about 15 years ago, that entire basement down below is filled with Nikki Craythorne genius magic holiday decorations and whatever. So we brought over 4 truckloads, marching band truckloads of Christmas, and it looked like the holidays barfed in the Kibbe Dome. And we had, if you know Nikki, we had snow machines and snowmen and Santa and we had the whole, and lights and garland. I mean, it was legit. It was awesome. And so we put this thing together and did kind of our version of the holiday concert, just a video. And again, it gave us, as the band, it gave us something to work towards. It gave us something real to work towards. And we weren't just, putting on our masks and trying to play Go Vandals. It's like, no, we're going to do something special that we would have never been able to do if we weren't thrown into this position. And so then that's how that video came about. And then the marketing team did a great job of sending that out. And it was, when you say that in the middle of a pandemic that you've had a phenomenal year, it doesn't always great. You know, and the cheer came in that video too. The cheerleaders were there, and Katie, and they did a routine, and the color guard did a routine with like lollipops and stuff. So everyone got to do a little bit of kind of their normal stuff with it too, if you think of the drum line and the color guard and the cheer. And it was just a really special collaboration, and it was one of the most rewarding seasons to date. It was really fun.
Which is amazing when you think of, what it could have been. So, I was just I've been so impressed just in general with the band. Overall, though, I would say I meet a lot of alumni, and the ones who are in marching band, they are passionate and they are connected. And the first thing they will tell you is not, oh, I'm an engineering major, or, I was in this house. They will say, I was in the marching band. So what breeds that kind of connection? What is it about marching band that just galvanizes that group of folks together?
There's so many alums on here that would all have probably better and equal or better answers, because it all means something different to all of us. But if you think about one of the strengths of the University of Idaho, one, it's the people, and the people are the University of Idaho. That's it. But there's an institutional memory of those people that it attracts. You can tell a University of Idaho student. I taught here, and I was here up until 2005, 2006, on, and then I moved to Boise and was gone for 6-7 years, and came back. And so when I came back, when I was hired here, I didn't know any of the students anymore, but you meet them, and you know that they're University of Idaho students. You know them. You feel like you know them, and there's a legit institutional memory to that. And if you think of the campuses, we're the only residential campus in the state of Idaho. We're the only one. It doesn't shut down at 5 p.m. And so everyone lives on campus, and the campus is just always hopping. You want to go practice in Reidenbach at 3 in the morning, you can go practice in Reidenbach at 3 in the morning. Maybe not right now, but also not right now, because it's being renovated, as is the School of Music. That's a whole other animal that it doesn't even seem real. But there's just an energy that's always going on. And the most exciting week always is that week when everybody comes back and marching band is going, and you have these people coming from all over the world, and now they're here on this campus, but they're thrown in now. They have a family of 200 students where they have these shared vulnerability and like interests and things like this, where you're immediately put to work. You immediately have purpose. Here you go. Here's your horn. We got to go. We got a gig in 2 days. We're playing on convocation in 2 days. Here we go. And you're just thrown in. And you have that, and then by the time school starts on Monday, you know where you live, you know where you're eating, you know where everything is, and you have these friends that are going through it with you or have gone through it with you, and you don't forget that. And I met my wife in marching band. I know so many of my colleagues and friends, so many of you met your significant others in marching band. My very best friends in the world met in marching band, met at the School of Music, met in doing these things, and yeah, you have all these fun memories of the shows and playing and doing this stuff, but the memories you remember is loading the truck, and Buck Fitch and Al are yelling at you, and you got to get this, and you got to get this set up. And one of the unique things about the University of Idaho and the Vandal Marching Band, dating all the way to Spev and to Seiler and to Bellis, you're talking way back now, is that we were given as undergraduates responsibilities that a lot of these other college marching bands and schools of music, they don't give their students. So you have students running the drum line, you have students running the color guard, you have a student crew that puts it all together. And if Al Gemberling and Tori and Dan wouldn't have given me those opportunities, I wouldn't have had the strength and the power of when I got out in the real world that we had already done these things before. And so many of our colleagues from other schools didn't get that. And that's my dumb answer. There's many other ones too that are much better than that. But that collective type of thing is life-changing for an 18, 19, 20-year-old, and Dan and Al and those guys letting you screw up because they knew you'd probably suck at this job early, and they allow you to grow and learn that type of stuff. Having gone around the country, that's pretty unique to this place.
Yep, agreed. And it's a magnet. Now students are seeking out coming to Idaho to do music.
Well, and they have too, for and this is the interesting thing too, and we could talk about this later on, I guess, when we're talking about mentors. But there's so many things that's unique about the University of Idaho. It was one of I think it's 76 or 77. You guys would know better than I. It's mid 70s. The university marching bands in the state of Idaho were all cut. U of I's was cut, Boise State's was cut, Idaho State's was cut. They were gone. Only one student body stood up and said, this band is too important to lose. And that was the University of Idaho. And that's when they established the fees. And these fees aren't scholarships. These fees are the operating budget to have a University of Idaho Vandal Marching Band. That's it. And they were the only ones that stood up and did it. And that's right when Buckfitch took over. And so there's a reason why we do all of our shows except homecoming towards the students. We're their band. And it was some years later than Boise State did it, and then 20 years later, Idaho State did it. But we were the only one that never had a suspension of it. And so there's always been a really unique relationship between the marching band and the students. And obviously they felt back then it was worth saving, and they still do. And it's just, again, you go around the country and you see marching bands play, and they're playing to an empty house because everyone's going outside to tailgate in the parking lot. And that doesn't happen here, and it's never happened here. Is the audience fills up, and this is 100 years in the making, right? This has been doing this forever. That you have this energy there for the band to perform, and this love for the band. I mean, how many times you see other universities, they crank into the fight song and nobody does anything. You're not going to see a Vandal when they hear Go Vandals. They're going to get up. They're going to get up, and they're going to clap and sing along and do the spell off and that whole thing. And that's special.
Agreed, 100%. Hey, what first drew you to music? Were you a musical kid?
No. I don't know. My mom Dolores and my father Simon, both graduates of the University of Idaho, as my grandfather was too. I'm third generation. They weren't musicians, but my dad, I thought about this question a lot, Kathy, because I didn't have a good answer. I could have lied and said something fun, but I didn't have a good answer. But I just remember him playing. He had this old Samsung late 1960s stereo in the basement with a record player, huge speakers. And I just remember him just like blasting like Fleetwood Mac and all these tunes. And I can remember when I learned to put these on and learned to put the record on. I don't know why it was always Fleetwood Mac. It was that Rumors album. Maybe it was the first one I learned how to put on the thing. But then I found out that the band was named after the drummer. And that seemed super cool. I just remember listening to the drums and going to my parents. I don't know how I was, 4. I said, I want to play the drums. They're like, oh God, great. But they just said, well, we'll distract him and that'll just go away. But I just kind of kept bugging them. Well, then they said, okay, if you're serious about this, then you have to take piano for 2 years before we'll let you think about playing the drums. And I think this is where my dad thought, thank God, he's not going to do this. Well, I took him up on it, and they found a piano and they got it. So I took lessons for 2 years. I think all I wanted to do was like play Star Wars or something, but I took piano lessons. And then for my 12th birthday, I got a pair of drumsticks. And so they started playing, didn't have a drum set yet, started playing and worked hard enough, started taking lessons, and then didn't do band in elementary school. That's where it started. I didn't know, but I got to junior high school, Claire E. Gale Junior High School. Anybody from Idaho Falls, it's no longer there. It's a whole other thing. I remember going, well, I'm a drummer. I think you're supposed to be in band. I don't know. My parents never did. So I go, and this is like kind of funny how this goes, because I look at myself now. I don't know how I was dumb enough or had the guts to do this, but knocked on the door, and there was the band director. His name was Mr. Kakacek, Mr. K. And I said, I'm a drummer. I think I'm supposed to be in band. I need to be in beginning band. And he goes, well, we don't do percussion in beginning band. You're going to have to play another instrument. And I'm like all offended. I'm like, and I can't believe I even said this. I said, well, I've taken piano lessons for 2 years, and I'm taking drum lessons. You know, is it crazy to think that you'd let me audition to the intermediate band? And he was dumb enough to let me in. And so then I just started playing in band, and I never had any goals I just liked to play and had friends, had a place. I finally had my place, right? Because let's be honest, junior high stinks when you're a kid. It's the best to teach, by the way. It's the most rewarding age to teach of all. But going through it, it's horrible. But anyway, and just kind of, I guess that's how I got into it, Kathy. I don't know. Just kind of kept going.
Right. Well, now I know that they're a third generation Vandal. I won't ask you how you ended up at the University of Idaho. It probably was a foregone conclusion, yes?
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
And it's not like my parents weren't great Vandals, and my dad got his undergraduate here and got his law degree here, and so I knew all of his buddies that he went to law school with, and we talked a lot about the Vandals and things like that. But I don't know. It just kind of didn't happen. I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. And this is kind of where the power of teachers are. I loved my band director, and may he rest in peace. My band director, David Berger, changed my life forever. And actually, speaking, he passed away the night before homecoming. This was long after I graduated, but just a great guy. And it makes you start, when things like this happen, you start thinking about things. But probably one of my favorite teachers was Mr. Francis, an IF high school history teacher. And I remember asking him, where should I go to college? And he goes, well, you like law, you should check out Gonzaga. Okay, I didn't know what that was. So I went there. And all that's because of one teacher, right? And so I went there, and actually, this is how long ago it was. Did my freshman year there. I started the basketball band. So I guess this was in my blood. I didn't even know it. Started the basketball band. That's the first year that they went to the NCAAs. But here's the funny part. I had heard of this guy named Dan Buckfitch at the University of Idaho for a million years. And one of my buddies went and took lessons from him, was at U of I, and came back and was like, it was already a great drummer, but he was smoking. Like, oh my God, who's this Dan Buckfitch guy? But anyway, I'm sitting at Gonzaga. I'm downstairs you're doing your socks, right? So you're doing your socks and you're watching college marching bands. Gonzaga didn't have one going. I should be doing that. And I'm going to miss my window. If I don't do something now, I'm going to miss my window, because I'd rather be doing that than doing my socks that my mom taught me how to wash 3 weeks before. It's like my first laundry I'd ever done, right? So decide, okay, I want to be in a college marching band. I'd already applied to Idaho. I'd been accepted. And so thinking, okay, who knows what's going to go on. January 1995, sitting up there with some buddies at Gonzaga. Hey, we're going down to Moscow to U of I to visit some buddies. Do you want to go? Sure. So we go on down there. You'd think they'd be like all fun parties and stuff. This is what a dork. I'm sitting in this room in the Kibbie Dome watching a track meet. What the hell am I doing on a Friday? A track meet? I don't like track. So sitting here watching track, and all of a sudden, there's your buddy. There's Jay Mykrantz, that drummer. So go see Jay. So we're talking, we're blabbing. Jay goes, hey, do you want to go see my drum room in Reidenbach? I go, what's Reidenbach? So he goes, come on over. So we go over to Reidenbach. And so there's 2 drum sets set up in this room. It's like this old building, and it's like smelly and it's weird, but oh my God, we're just rocking out. This is Friday night, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night. We're just going to town rocking. And then he goes, hey, do you want to go meet Dan Buckfitch? I go, it's 11 at night. He goes, yeah. Okay. So we go down to the School of Music, and there's Dan's office. And so for like 2 hours, we're sitting there talking with Dan and just talking about I just want to drum and want to get better. So I think it's like 12:30 now. Dan goes, hey, do you want to go down to, then it was the Student Union Building. Do you want to go down and watch the percussion ensemble rehearse? I go, it's 12:30 at night. It's 12:30 in the morning. He goes, yeah. I go, hell yes, I do. So we go down there and we're watching the percussion ensemble. And so Dan goes, well, why don't you tomorrow, we have this thing called Band Fest, right? There's all these high school bands coming the next day. And the reason they were rehearsing at midnight is because school had just started. So they had to throw this show together that night. It was the only time they could rehearse. He goes, why don't you come down, watch the percussion ensemble, and then we'll go do a lesson. Great. So come down. Dan does the percussion. He's in his tux. We're walking back from the sub to the School of Music. We key into room 213, which is the percussion room. And he gives me just this lesson that blew my mind. I had some chops. I could play okay. I could play. But I'd hit the ceiling. I couldn't get any better. And I had taken lessons in Spokane and all these other places, and they'd just go, well, just practice more. Well, what do you practice? I don't know what to practice. And Dan showed me exactly what to practice. And your mind just goes. And so then that was it, Kathy, that was it. Now it's the University of Idaho to study with Buckfitch and to be in the marching band. And that's where I met Al Gemberling. So Dan and Al, 2 of the biggest, that's a terrible word. Where did I get my degree? Anyway, 2 of the biggest influences on my life. Just phenomenal. That one experience. And that lesson, I've taught versions of that lesson for 25 years, you know, and just, and you speak about the marching band and what makes it special here other than the students. So many universities, you'll have a marching band director, they'll be there for 3 or 4 years and they'll move along. They'll go somewhere completely, somewhere else. And then their influence there is limited. But if, and you look at, and I don't know as well, I know a little bit about Warren Bellis. I know Dave Seiler. I've met Dave Seiler a lot. So, and it started with Warren. It started with Warren Bellis in the 50s and what he created. He really kind of, and if you look at the uniforms, that was during Bellis's era. He really started something special. And then Seiler took over, I believe in 62, that you guys would know the dates better than I was. And I think he was here and then came back, but he's the one that brought Robert Spevacek in. And so Spev came here in the mid 60s, mid to late 60s. And then Spev lasted his whole career here, became director of bands, did all that stuff. He's the one that brought Dan Buckfitch here. So you have Spev, and so much of the school of music and the marching band is because of Spev, so much of it. And then he brings in Dan. And so now Dan's here, and same thing. Dan obviously had a gigantic influence on the University of Idaho, still does, obviously. And so he did the band. And then he stayed here as well, and then continued on his career. Then Al Gemberling. And so Al takes over in 88, 89 in there and does it for 10 years. That's who was my primary marching band director until my senior year. So then Al career is here and he moves on and stays. And then Al took over in 86. Thank you, Eric. And then we got Tori in 98 and who's now the provost. Do you think that's an accident? That's how much power the marching band has, right? So there you go. I let the cat out of the bag. You can scrub that when this goes on YouTube. But name another marching band that has had this continuous string of marching band directors, because now all of those guys were my professors, every single one. I was in Spev's Wind Ensemble with Dan, obviously, and with Al and with Tori. And so every little bit of what they built with the band has lived on in some way, shape, or form. And that just doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen anymore. And so yak, yak, yak. People's eyes are rolling in the back of their heads now, but it's certainly something special about this band.
We were talking about that yesterday, how one led to the other, and built on what the legacy of what everyone else had done. So yeah,
well, and it's so special too. You look at this era we're in now. You know, Vanessa Seelert's our director of the School of Music. She's an alumna of the University of Idaho and the School of Music. So you've got me, I'm one. You know, look at our president. He's one. Look at Tori. He's one. Is finally we have this emotional investment amongst people that actually care about this place. And that's not to throw other people under the bus. That's not fair, but that's hugely important for this institution. It's hugely important and hugely special and hugely unique. Hugely, again, well, I don't know why I'm saying that word. Whatever. It's just cool. There you go. How's that? It's cool.
It's the word of the day.
It's the word of the day.
Where you say hugely and the duck comes down.
That's right.
So I want to, I don't know if we have any questions. I want to make sure that we at least get to one or two of those. Christy, what do you got?
I have one right now, but I'm sure some will come, and I just got another one. So as soon as we start questions, they usually start coming in. So from Martin, he wants to know, do you have a favorite band trip?
A favorite band? Oh, a favorite band trip?
Yes.
Well, one of the questions we talked about is what's a great day for a band director? And this is a trip, you know, old school Vandals, we made trips down to Boise and played on that blue turf all the time. But that's not the case, and that hasn't been the case for a long time. You know, I'm not telling anyone that doesn't know, but hey, 2016, so the football team, they make this bowl game. And so it was a great season, but it was the longest season in the history of the universe. And remember, that's the year that we had 2 home football games after Thanksgiving, which rarely happened. It happened in the Al and Buckfitch days when there was the playoffs and things like that. But for when we were up at 1A, that didn't happen a whole lot. So we get this bowl game. And let's be honest, we're an indoor band. We're a dome band. We don't have the jackets and stuff. Tori had gotten some back when we were doing stuff at WSU for those years, 2000, 2001, 2002, all in there. But those were now like 20 years old. And, you know, Jack Olson has about 5 of them. So who knows, those of you out there that have these jackets, right? So anyway, we needed new jackets. University did a great job. They got us all the stuff we needed so that we would be warm. But this is so classic. And Eric was talking about vandalizing the blue turf. This is so, speaking of institutional memories, and I do shockingly have friends at Boise State. But my God, those colleagues of ours that run that would not allow us to rehearse on the blue turf. They would not allow us to rehearse on the blue turf. We could not get a rehearsal at the stadium before the bowl game. They let us do it in their crappy mini Kibby Dome thing, which is just god awful. Well, so what you do is you call TJ Erickson from Lewiston High School. He's a pride of Lewiston. He graduated from Lewiston. He's an Idaho Vandal grad. I was his band camp counselor here in the 90s. He's down at Eagle High School. Incredible music educator, incredible band director. What he has built at Eagle is just a testament to him. He is phenomenal. So I called TJ. I said, we need a place to rehearse outside. Can we do it? He goes, absolutely. And we got, and Tori helped me too, because we had people, it's not like we could just get the band back together and then drive down to Boise. This stupid football game is on like December 22nd. So finals had been done. It's, of course, ESPN moves it to 6 p.m. It's minus 15, it's not minus, it's 15 degrees outside. Martin's horn completely froze shut. But this is 2 days before. We roll into Eagle. We got people flying in. We got buses. This is like the first place the band could even convene, Eagle High School. And so we get out to the field, and there's like 1.5 feet, 2 feet of snow. And that marching band gets out there. They dig out every line. They dig out every hash mark. They dig out everything so that we can have a rehearsal. And remember, this is the fall down Vandals thing. This is our whole shtick that we do in the Dome. And by God, they did it. And they didn't complain. They probably did later, fine, which is, but they, by far, one of the most rewarding experiences to see them, just that grit and to pull it off. And by God, this is an old line that Spev says, it's not a competition, but take no prisoners. And Colorado State had no damn idea what hit them football-wise and band-wise at that thing, because we were so stoked to be there, and it was awesome. The only regret I have is we fed that band a gigantic Basque lunch, gigantic. It was huge. It was awesome. The only regret I have is after the game, we're watching Colorado State walk out, and every one of them had a Chick-fil-A box, and I went, oh, I should have fed them now. So anyway, that's my biggest regret. But that's my favorite trip, Martin, right there.
Oh, man. I love your passion, Spencer. Okay, next. Well, this is a comment from the Foley Library. Coming from the Foley Library.
From Harold Foley.
Not so much a question as a comment for Spencer, but a few minutes ago, participants from Idaho Falls talked about going to high schools to other than Idaho Falls High. Just wanted to weigh in as an IF Tiger who graduated with a Simon Martin.
Yes, class of 64.
And went on to college at Idaho with Simon Martin and finished up classmates in law school at Idaho.
And Harold, do you go down to the law school and look at your picture? Because I do. I sneak in to see you guys.
Anyway, they said your dad and mom would be so proud of you.
Well,
anyway.
Thank you for being. Thank you. Here's this emotion stuff now, but.
Hey, there's no crying in Cup of Joe. Okay, Jack Olson, he would like to know, an alumna recently wrote a book about the history of the UI Marching Band. Did you read it, and what did you think?
Shannon Kelly is phenomenal, and Shannon Kelly put in thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. And she went back and she got every news Argonaut from the get-go and every yearbook from the get-go and got every single solitary thing she could find. And yeah, I read it, and she's the historian. She's the one that knows and interviewed people, and people were so kind, and they were sending us, the sweaters from the 1930s and 40s. We have those. They're in special collections now. I mean, she helped unearth so many neat things, and we just were able to meet so many alumni that life happens. You just kind of lose contact, and you lose some of the history stuff that that you wouldn't have known, and she helped facilitate that. And someday, once this stuff passes, we will get that published, and we will have a kind of a coffee table book and stuff like that. That will happen. It's just like everything else. It's just delayed a little bit. But she along with, Kathy's help and everyone's help, and we had that 100-year reunion, and we had not only so many alumni back, but to have Spev and Dan and Al and Tori, to have them all here and to talk about their stories, that was really special. And she put that whole thing together. She put that whole thing together and got the stuff out and put it up at now the Pittman Center, but in the sub ballroom. And
that was an amazing day to have all of those former directors on the field. That was
Very cool. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, here's another one. You ready? I don't even know what this means, but hopefully you do. From Susan Stauffer. What's the story behind the Costco box at Hunga Dunga the other night with the Moscow Mules? Sounded great. Thank you for all your enthusiasm and creativity.
Hey, thank you for being there. Well, one of the questions, Kathy, you asked me is, am I still playing in bands? And I mean, obviously it was a little stunted last year, but yeah, in two really great bands, loaded with School of Music and University of Idaho alums, by the way. But so I'm playing in this bluegrass band called the Moscow Mules, just awesome guy. And Paul he's a doctor of biology here, I believe, too. So, and then Mark Snodgrass is on bass and I'm on drums. Mark's a grad. His dad was the high school band director at Moscow High for a million years. He's a grad from the School of Music as well. So I play on this thing called a luta, L-O-O-T-A. And it's basically a cajon drum set. I'm sitting on a box, but it's got a pedal and it hits it and it's got a snare drum thing. But when we were rehearsing with those guys in Mark's garage, Mark used to work at Costco. He was a big manager, he was way up at Costco. And so he always has Costco boxes and stuff. And I just grabbed a box and started playing brushes on it. And that was neither here nor there. Now I tell you this, if someone asked me on the gig, I said, well, I can't tell you. It's an old drummer secret. I can't tell you what's underneath this box. But really it was nothing more than that. But
that's awesome. And how come we don't know about these little performances? Where can we find these?
Oh, we're on Facebook. We've got an email. So the other band I'm in is called John and Rand. It was John and Rand. So John Anderson and Rand Walker. And so Rand Walker's a psychologist. The rest of us are full-time musicians. We need his help constantly. But John Anderson is our piano tech here. And John would be mad if I said this, but that's okay. He can be mad at me. John is arguably, absolutely the finest musician at the School of Music. He is an unbelievable musician, unbelievable, and is an even nicer guy. And so he and I years ago played a bunch of gigs. This would have been in the late 90s. And we were playing an Idaho Repertory Theater gig. If you remember those, we were playing a show called Beehive with Kelly Quinnett was in it. And Gary Gemberling was on trumpet and Doc Miller was on saxophone. Steve Lilly was on bass, all these old names. And then it was John on keys and I was on drums. John had just come off the cruise ships. He had been playing piano for Carnival Cruise Lines in their show bands for a long time. He had just gotten off that gig. He was back in Moscow. We're playing gigs with him. And I had just graduated with my percussion performance degree. I had no idea what the heck I was going to do. I just wanted to go play drums. That's it. And I have maybe a story for Harold I'll have to say too about Simon, my father. But I asked John, I said, John, am I good enough to play on the cruise lines? He goes, absolutely. And so we go to his apartment and he gets on the phone with a guy named Rob King down in Miami, Florida, who's head of hiring of music for Carnival Cruise Lines. Puts me on the phone and he goes, if John Anderson says you're good enough to play for Carnival, you're good enough to play for Carnival. Do you want to start in New Orleans or Los Angeles next week? I said Los Angeles. And so he sent me the ticket and away we went. And so I was on the cruise ships for a long time. Come back to Moscow. This is a couple of years ago. We have an old piano at our house and John is tuning it for us. And John's talking to my wife and talking to me about this duo he's in called John and Rand. They're the house band at the golf course over in Pullman. And John and I had played before, and Emily was telling him about this cajon drum set thing I had, because it's really great for small spaces where you have to play quietly. Like, it's awesome, and it sounds like a drum set. It sounds awesome, and no one has one but this dopey bass. And he's also in the Senders. That's correct. If you know the Senders, John is in the Senders, so you would know automatically. You would know John. And so John asked me, he goes, "Hey, do you want to you want to come play with John and myself and with Mark? And I said, yes. When John Anderson asked you to play a gig, even a guy as dumb as me, you go, yes. And it was just magic. It was just, and we played like 80 gigs in 2019. I mean, it was nonstop. And then you'd think 2020 could get rid of it, but it didn't happen. And we were doing stuff online, and so we're playing a lot now. We're starting to play. We're all vaccinated. We're playing a lot of gigs outside, and so if you want to get on our mailing list, you can email me. We'll get you on it, or on Facebook, John and Rand on Facebook. Carrie can vouch. Carrie and Alan. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm just vomiting stuff here. But one of your questions though, Kathy, you asked me is, if you could play with anyone, who would you want to play with? And the answer is, I already am. And when you get older, when you're young and you want to be a professional musician, you said, what words of advice do you have for professional or young musicians? Well, none of this is great, but if you're going to be a professional musician, this is going to sound kind of blue. I won't drop any bad words, but you kind of are a musical prostitute, is that you have to play what the person paying you needs you to play. And whether you like it or not is irrelevant. And you've got to nail it to the wall, and you've got to make it look like it's the best music of all time. And a lot of times you're playing with people that don't like music very much and don't like themselves very much. I'm not saying they're not great players, but you're playing with people that are not happy, and they're mean, and they vibe you, and it's just not fun. It's just not fun. But when you find someone like John and Rand and Mark, and the Basque Band was another one that was like family. That was just, there's never a bad gig. Every gig is fun, and you just enjoy it. That's now when you get older and you have a family, that's who you want to play with. Those are the only groups I'm going to be at. Because if I'm going to have to be away from my wife and my 2 children, it has to be worth my time. And playing gigs where people are mean, no way. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, come see John and Rand and band and the Senders and the Moscow Mules. Come see us this summer. We're playing outside. Come see us.
Apparently there's one on May 21st at Lindsay Creek Vineyards.
That's correct, down in Lewiston. Well, I think we're doing. Wait, John, we're at what? Bootsers Friday. Are we at Hungadunga Saturday night outside? I think we're at Hungadunga Saturday night outside. I don't know. I'd have to look at the list. It's filling up though. So yeah, if you're interested, please, we'll get you connected.
I'll be there.
Cool.
God, I just like the thought of live music coming back.
It's fun, Kathy. It was really great.
I can't wait.
And outside at Hungadunga, we played there a couple weeks ago. It was fun.
Excellent.
It was really fun.
Excellent. What else you got, Christy?
I've got, what is your favorite section from Ryan Allen?
Yours, Ryan. Don't tell anybody. Your section. Trombones, of course. Of course.
Oh
so when I taught middle school band, my model instrument was the baritone. I am one like a 7th grade level baritone player. I'm a bad mofo. Don't get me above a B flat or it's game over. But somewhere deep down in another life, I was a low brass player. Harold Foley. Harold, I got to tell you this story about my late father, Simon. So my goal was I was going to be a history major, and I was then going to go to law school like my father and my grandfather before him. My grandfather was a judge. The courtroom in Idaho Falls is named after my grandfather, Henry Martin, who rumor is was a drummer. I didn't know this until a little while ago. But I got to the University of Idaho, and I'm a history major, but I'm doing music nonstop. All I'm doing is music. And Buckfish finally goes, "Why aren't you a music major?" And I said, what is that? I don't know what that is. And so now I go, I think I'm going to be a history major. So I call Simon. I go, Dad, yeah, I'm thinking of switching to being a music major. And there's just dead silence. Dead silence. And he goes, "Can you still get into law school with the music degree?" I said, "I don't know. Let me go check." So I go check, and I call him back. And I said, "Yes, I can still get into law school." He goes, "Okay, no problem. You can be a music major." Not a problem at all. Shows you how well my law career worked out. But I'll tell you, it does feel every day when you're directing the band, when you're doing whatever, that you're in front of the jury, because you've got to figure out a way to empower them to make the right decisions so that you can have some success. So there's maybe a little bit of that in there. But yeah, I'll never forget that silence. That was it was what it was, for sure.
That's funny. Okay, this is a good. Are we close to being Kathy, what do you think? How many more? I
I
have
ha-
one more.
Okay, you go, and then I have a couple.
Okay. From Bailey Storms. Hi, Bailey. What
Hi, Bailey.
advice can you offer to people who used to play instruments but want to get back into it and new instruments after a hiatus? Basically, how do you start and keep that motivation?
Just pick it up and don't be afraid to look stupid. And that's the hardest thing. That's just the hardest thing too. I'm pretty good at it, but it's still kind of scary. But you think about it. Why is it that elementary school kids can pick up stuff so fast? Yeah, their brains are functioning and all that stuff, but they're used to falling down and scraping their knees, and then they're just used to getting right back up, and they're not afraid to take that chance. And then it seems when we get into high school, there's a definite time where that stops, and even through college, it kind of comes back in college where you're willing to take some more chances, but you're just afraid to make a fool out of yourself. And then there's this magic thing though, when you start getting, in your 40s or your 50s or 60s, you don't care anymore. Who gives a crap? I'm going to look stupid. I don't care. And so then you get that back. You get that excitement back of, I don't care if I'm going to sound bad. I'm doing this because this is what I want to do. And so it's literally just jumping in and going for it, and just enjoying it. Just enjoying the fact that we get to do it, I guess. I don't know. That's probably a lame answer. I'm sorry, but
I don't know. I played the piano my whole childhood, and I haven't picked it up probably since I was 18.
well, if you've ever know the author Daniel Coyle, he's written a lot of great books. The Culture Code is phenomenal. The Little Book of Talent and the Talent Code, phenomenal. But this Little Book of Talent, he's this guy that's enamored with talent. What's talent? And so he went to all these places throughout the world that were called talent hotbeds, where they're kicking out world-class musicians or athletes or whatever, and wanted to see what's all the same stuff that they're doing. And he kind of compiled it in this book, and they were doing so many of the same things. And one of the chapters, it says, don't be afraid to be stupid. And they talked about Wayne Gretzky, who's arguably the greatest hockey player of all time. And what you would watch Wayne Gretzky skating, and he would be falling all the time. This is in practice all the time. And they go, Wayne Gretzky, what are you doing? Why are you falling? It's because he would get to his maximum speed he could possibly go, and then push himself just that much more until he found where he would fall down and where it would be that. He was just finding a way to get better and better and better, and to not allow yourself to feel stupid. Don't afraid to be stupid. So if Wayne Gretzky, the best hockey player in the world, is willing to look stupid, maybe the rest of us can too on whatever we're trying to accomplish.
Awesome.
Good answer.
So I have a couple of questions. Well, I have one more question, and I think that's about all we have time for, because I want to make sure we give you the last word, Spencer. So someone watching the band, they're awesome every single time. What is it?
Well, you're very
what
kind.
is it- What is it when you know that was the performance, that was the best that group could do? What are the hallmarks of that?
That's a great question. Funny, it typically happens in rehearsal.
Okay.
Not all the time, and a lot of times too. And this goes for every age group. They're going to take the entire time to get where they're at, whether it's 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months. They're going to take the entire time, and it doesn't matter how old they are or whatever, and they're going to get there. But that's a great question. Just trying to think of ones that really stood out, like gigs themselves. We're spoiled here, because some of the reactions that we have gotten from the crowd here are just, you can tell when it's genuine, because it's a friendly crowd. They don't want the band, to suck. And no, not every gig is perfect, but at all, by any stretch of the imagination. But boy, you can tell when you resonated something literally and figuratively, and that crowd is just out. It's just like, bam. Mm-hmm. And back to that 2016 band when we debuted the piano, and then Nikki we did the Christmas tree and the snowman, and that was all Nikki's thought. We did the music there, and Bob Rinker, the collaboration we haven't even talked with engineering and computer science with Ed Odom and Bob Rinker and all that stuff. That was one of those, for a performance-wise, that was explosive. When we did the water drums, and that's one actually that not a lot of people saw, because it was Friday right before Thanksgiving, so a lot of people had left. Mm-hmm. But we did these water drums that we kind of stole the concept from Blue Man Group, and Bob Rinker built them. And that was awesome, and the crowd went banana land. So we mixed like AC/DC on banjos with Beethoven, with water drums. Yep. and we had the lights and the whole thing. And I'll never forget this too. My son at that point, John was I think John was 4. And I remember talking to John, this was months later. This was, marching band was done. This is like February or March. We go, hey, John, do you think you're ever going to want to play in the marching band? We never really even talk like this. He goes, yeah. And I go, well, what do you want to play? He goes, water drums, of course. And so for his 5th birthday, don't tell anybody, but for his 5th birthday, we borrowed the water drums and brought them to my garage and turned off all the lights, and all his little friends came over, and we put them on Vandal hats and ponchos and everything, and we cranked up the water drums, and they played on those drums for like an hour. They just went
I
nuts.
remember you
So-
telling me that story, and I remember the water drums. They were awesome.
So they may need to make a reappearance at some point, but we'll put everyone in like hazmat suits, so we'll be safe. But that was fun. But yeah, the collaboration with the science guys was just a real fun, happy accident. Dan had kind of started it with Ed Odom, and then one of our students was in engineering, and one of our students, her fiance was working with Bob Rinker in computer science, and Bob wanted to light the band, and so we got sunglasses from a group in San Diego. They donated them to us, knock-around sunglasses. We all got sunglasses. And the staff and the students of the University of Idaho basically built little computer things with LED lights, all done by in-house. And we have a fully automated light show now. We've had it for years, and we use that in the video. If you look at the Christmas video or the holiday video, it's in there. But that's all. No one's doing it. You know, we built the Chalaparta. We talked about the Chalaparta. Engineering built us the Chalaparta, so we had that, and we played that on some shows. And engineering, we had the robotic drum set, the robotic grand piano, which that young lady, she built a whole new platform. So hopefully we can bring that back too. So it's like, and I just remember, this is so funny. You think that the music people, that we're all so creative and we're all so artsy, and the science people are so like this. It's so hilarious. I remember one time, I never did this again. But I told some music people, yeah, we're thinking of doing this movable grand piano on the football field. And they go, why? These are music people. And you go to the science guys, you go, hey, do you think you could build us a robotic grand piano? They go, hell yeah, of course we could.
Right,
And
yeah.
so we have all these assumptions about what's going on. And it's just been so rewarding to work with those two guys and the students. So to see, yeah, the band Beeston, right, Alan, right? That's where it all started. Ryan, that's where it all started, was the band Beeston. And then to see our students that are in those majors, see them as marching band students, but then also see them get to work and help create these platforms and these things. That's been a happy accident who knew that would have happened? It's been really cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Our time is up. I can't even believe it. I mean, it just flew by. But any last word?
Just thank you to everybody for showing up. But it's not, and it was for the Vandal Marching Band, and the Vandal Marching Band is your experiences with the people that were there. That's the Vandal Marching Band, and you all have that. We all have that in common, and we all get to share that, no matter what years we were here. That we have that together, and you know what? The stupid pandemics didn't kill it at all. It didn't hurt it at all. In fact, it's going to be stronger than ever, and that's from what you built. It's from what you built through all those years. So thank you, and thank you for just taking your time to be here. It's a huge honor, and thank you to Kathy and to Christy and to everybody. And it's been so cool here too, because you all know that did the band. You all know the behind the scenes of what it takes to put it together, and to be in the dome and to watch these guys work, and to watch them put this together for commencement, and to watch the custodians clean up and to do all this stuff. That's the University of Idaho. That's what it is. It's that, and acknowledging that hard work and all that specialness, so that we all get to do these things together. So yak. But thank you. It really is heartwarming to have all of you here. Thank you.
I cannot add one single thing to that, except thank you for being with us. And thanks all of you for joining us. And as always, go Vandals. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Spence.